Welcome to the 9642 podcast. This is your host, Mr. Number 9.
And this is The Fool.
Hello, everyone. We are back to our regular bread and butter, the actual football or soccer, as some of our fans like to call it. And most specifically, Premier League and Champions League, and a little bit of Serie A.
Just a bit.
So I think it's been a very eventful first 3 rounds of the Premier League.
Yeah.
I think absolutely thrilling. I could not, I stayed up to watch games and actually managed to stay up without falling asleep, which at my age is like a huge accomplishment.
That is massive. No, it's been a crazy start, I think. It's been some super awesome games, upsets, previous giants, I guess you call Arsenal, failing to look anywhere close to being like an actual football team.
Yeah.
Red cards, controversy,
Yeah.
big name signings. Last minute big name signings even, it's crazy.
I think it's a good point you bring up. Looking at the signings, obviously there's 3 big ones I kind of want to talk about. Romelu Lukaku, the prodigal son, returns back to Chelsea. The team that first took a punt on him and then didn't play him at all.
The team he shunned because we wouldn't play him. He was like, you know what? Screw you guys, I'm out of here. And at the time, I was like, that's the right move, Lukakku. Really, if we're not going to play you, you may as well go. I'm sad that you left at that time.
Yes.
But yes, as you say, finally he's back and looking like he should have always been here.
When Lukaku was kind of on the market and people were wondering where he was going to go, there were some rumors that he might have gone to City. But I feel because there was City, we knew City were in the hunt for a striker. Obviously, everybody and their mum was thinking it was going to be a Harry Kane.
Yeah.
But as it turned out, Tottenham knows how to play hardball, or Daniel Levy knows how to play hardball.
Yeah.
Kane has stayed in City, and Guardiola has gone, I don't need a striker, it's all good. Which is exactly what you expect him to say at this point.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, to be fair, they basically didn't have a striker last season, and they won this. So, but looking at that, I think we all agreed that if City had managed to obtain Harry Kane, the race was over. There was we weren't even being facetious about that. No team had the firepower or depth to handle City at that point. So even if they'd gotten Lukaku, that would have been a goals, but I don't think Lukaku's style of play suits City.
No, I don't.
It really suits Chelsea, and I think it's been great that Chelsea managed to get him. I think getting Lukaku turned Chelsea into co-favorites to win the league with City at that point.
Yeah. And I mean, Lukaku's come in and just shown why he's worth the money we've spent on him. He's looked good in the 2 games he's played. Scored a goal in his debut, and he's just bossed around defenses so much. It's just been so good having a striker like that. It's been good. I mean, no disrespect to previous strikers. Tammy Abraham was really good, but young.
Yes.
So I hope he's off to our friend Mourinho, off to Roma. So hopefully he does well there as well, and maybe we can have another prodigal son returning in the not too distant future. Because I liked Abraham, so I hope he does come back at some point. But Lukaku,
Lukaku is Lukaku.
Yeah, exactly.
And the other point I think here is that once Lukaku went to Chelsea, I thought United, especially after their first 2 games, were gonna struggle to make it in the top 4. They were gonna fight with Leicester, Liverpool, a very good-looking Spurs. And potentially at that point, I still thought Arsenal were a threat.
Yeah.
So this is I did not have the benefit of hindsight. Forgive me.
Yeah. I don't think any of us really were expecting this Arsenal to show up. So
now
I can see why you thought they were a threat at the time.
That being said, but I still thought United were favorites to finish to make a top 4 spot, but I thought they would struggle for it. But the moment we had the breakout news of the last week, and I think it is the breakout news of the last week of the transfer window, is when Ronaldo went to United. And I think, even though I think nobody thought United needed another forward, and the rumor is that United are still going to try and get Haaland next season with Ronaldo being there, because they want to have a young core of attackers.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I suppose. I feel like that's a bit greedy, but sure. I'm not gonna look a gift horse in the mouth.
No, exactly.
So to speak. So Ronaldo was thinking about going to City, which I never thought was gonna happen. I always thought that was basically Ronaldo's way of saying, "Come on, United. You know you want to bid for me," because he was offered to United at the beginning of the season, and United were kind of like, "I don't know if we can afford you."
Yeah.
As it is, it turned out playing that way. It's ended up pretty well for everybody not named Manchester City, because they have ended up without a striker.
Yeah.
United ended up with Ronaldo. Chelsea's ended up with Lukakku. So I believe now City not only do they have a genuine contender in Chelsea that's going to compete with them, I think United are also competing against them for like those top two positions are between those three teams, and it's a strong competition. Like I think City are just ahead, but only just. Like I don't think they're runaway favorites anymore.
No, I agree with you on that. I think it's those final two signings, or big signings, really flipped everything around, and suddenly there was a lot more interest, I guess, with United being getting Ronaldo in is definitely a title contender right there. Chelsea, we were looking goodish, needed a bit of something, but I felt like we were getting Lukakku or Haaland or someone like that in, and ended up being Lukakku, which was good, and he's proven that he was probably the best choice anyway, so that works, and that's really plugged the main gap, and our defensive. I thought we needed another defender in there, but so far this season the defensive structure seems to be working well.
I don't think there's an issue with Chelsea's defensive structure as per se, but I think there's an issue potentially with squad depth.
Yeah.
And that would be my only concern if I were a Chelsea fan.
Yeah, I do agree.
It's a long campaign. They're going to be playing in Europe. They're going to be playing in the Cup. They need the bodies to compete with City and United on all three fronts, because I think Chelsea want to compete with City and United on all in all fronts, not just be like, let's compete, let's focus on a cup or focus on Europe.
Yeah, no, exactly. We want to be there to do it all, basically. But and so it's perhaps not the structure, and it's not really the personnel. And we've got some good players. It's the experience and the depth. I think is more the issue. Like there's some depth there, but there's a lot of youth in that, or younger players in that depth. So they've been playing a few seasons now. Like Christensen's in his fourth season as a first
Chelsea and United, I think, have like a lot of the best of young and old, because if you look at it, Chelsea have players like, as you said, Christian Pulisic and Marcus Rashford, who have been playing at the top level. This is going to be his second season, I want to say, at the Premiership. Would that be right?
Pulisic?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Second for him.
And also, like, United have someone like Marcus Rashford, who is who's almost got veteran-like stats in terms of how long he's been playing and what he's done so far in his career.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got that side of things for both Chelsea and United, and like even Mason Greenwood, this is his third season, and he's not even 20 yet.
Oh, that's crazy.
And like I shudder to think what he's gonna do after he's had a season with Ronaldo teaching him.
Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, that's gonna be amazing.
Like that is what we're like. Obviously, we're all happy that Ronaldo's back. Like, United fans will always claim this, but I think it's true that like as much as everybody respects Ronaldo, United is the club where he's loved. You know what I mean? Like there's no like we forgive Cristiano Ronaldo anything.
Yeah, that is very true. I think you're right. It's like that is the place that the fans would say
Like
is his home.
United doesn't want Cristiano because his status or like, he makes the club become a superstar thing and all. Like, and that's not a bad reason to buy a player, by the way. I'm not criticizing a
No.
club for doing that. But it's like United want Cristiano because they love Cristiano. That's not the fans
Yeah.
that is. I don't know, I can't speak for Ed Woodward or anyone like that, but
Yeah. I did like the story that came out about why he signed, or how he ended up signing for United, which was say Juve were wanting, they needed the money, so his agent was shopping him around because Juve basically like, I guess you'll stay if you can't be shopped around, but we're not going to pay you very well in the end. So if you want to go somewhere where there's actual players and stuff, he's like he got offered to United back in May, June, whenever it was. We're like, nah, not at the moment, too expensive, like. And then the agent working double time, especially once Messi had moved, and then he sort of went to PSG and like, hey, want Ronaldo too? Yeah, you're getting rid of Mbappe. You could swap. You get rid of him. Ronaldo's there. And went to Real like, hey, I hear you're interested in Mbappe. If PSG don't sign him, got Ronaldo. And same, that's why they went to City as well. Like, hey, heard you're interested in Mbappe. They don't sell Ronaldo. And then
like, don't get me wrong. I would have loved it if he had gone to PSG because we all want to see United and we want to see Ronaldo and Messi.
That would have been
together in the same team finally.
But yeah, and then who was it? One of the ex-United players was like heard this and rang up Ronaldo and like, what the hell's going on? City? What? You can't go to Man City. And he's like, yeah. Hey, agent, go talk to United as well again. They're like, but he turned you down. No, now it's okay. And then United's like, yeah, no, you're not going to City. He's like, yeah, I'm not going to City. Right. Go to United now. We got it all sorted.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it worked.
Yeah, I just love how it all works. In the end, it was just like, it was more of a status thing for United. Like, you can't sign for City, no matter what. We're signing you.
Well, it's both the status thing and like, what would it say about United? Like, one of their greatest ever players just went to their rival. Like, not with like Dennis Law when he couldn't find a club and after he left United, after his United career was over, it's like at his peak, like still one of the best players in the world.
Exactly. No, you're right. It just would have been crazy if he'd gone to City. Like, that was just never happening, really.
Yeah. This is the thing. You never know if a player will work in the Premier League because I don't think anyone will argue Shevchenko, Crespo are not gun players. You can argue about Mattia Kezman because he was like a one-season wonder in Spain and then went to Chelsea and was like kind of found out.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's like I think now with the way scouting is done, you're less likely to buy a dud player. But yeah, even someone like Jadon Sancho, until we see him play in the Premier League, we don't know how well he's going to do. But United have kind of covered themselves in that position because they have Cristiano.
Yeah.
To be playing on the right if need be.
That's actually, it makes it even smarter, those two purchases. Like,
yeah.
Because you got the youth and the experience, and so you can cover yourself and get, Sancho can get that experience and learn from Ronaldo and get some game time.
Even Rashford, who's a veteran, can learn from Ronaldo, I think.
I think just about anybody could learn from Ronaldo at the moment, but yeah. He's in such good form.
Absolutely, and he's just such a good player, like work ethic and everything else, training and like attitude. Now, and the other side is that, like, Varane, I'm almost 90% sure he's going to be an incredible player in the Premier League.
Yeah.
But can't tell because he hasn't played in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And I think it works with him being like the ball playing ball-playing defender and Maguire being the hard, hard tackling defender. And they can actually play Maguire in the position that he's good at, which is the right center as opposed to the left center.
Yeah.
Now, the other part of that is I think lots of people have been thinking this is the end of Victor Lindelof, but I think we could see some surprises there. I wouldn't be surprised if Ole Gunnar Solskjaer decided to try Victor Lindelof in that midfield pivot role, like by himself.
Oh, yeah? Yeah.
Because he's actually a very good passer.
Yeah.
He's not the best at defending, but like he doesn't need to be that good a defender if he's got Varane and Maguire behind him. If he's being that defensive mid, he just needs to be the pivot, and he needs to basically provide a screen for the counter attack.
Yeah. He's just got to get.
And as long as he can occasionally win the ball and get the key pass in, like that's going to be job well done. And if he can do it by himself, then you can basically have Pogba and Bruno playing as the double number 8s, and that's going to be that's the system that Solskjaer wants to play.
Yeah.
That being said, if it doesn't work out and United are still competitive, it's obvious that the team has problems, but for some reason, because other teams are dropping points, United are still within 2 or 3 points of first place. Don't be surprised in January if they come in for a big buy and get a defensive mid. I don't think it'll be another Premier League player, as much as I would like them to go for a player like Ruben Neves, Ndidi, or Declan Rice.
Yeah.
Because I don't think any of those clubs will potentially sell a player. Wolves might sell Neves, depending on where they're at.
Maybe
at that point. But yeah, don't be surprised if United do that.
Oh no. Would make sense.
And so, but that being said, I think that if we're going to look outside that top 3 of quote unquote top 3 of United and Chelsea and Manchester City, who do you think is in pole position amongst the rest? In my mind, it's still. I think it's Spurs. Surprisingly, I have to look at them and go, "You guys have played the best football." I'm still waiting for you to Spurs it up.
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. It's either going to be Spurs or Liverpool, I think. Like, Spurs are looking very unspursy to start with. Like, they're doing very well.
I could see Spurs and Leicester get 3rd and 4th.
Yeah.
Like, I'm never going to count out Liverpool because they have a good manager. But I think, like, let's be honest, Nuno is a great manager.
Yeah.
Sure, he wasn't Spurs' first choice or second choice or third choice to lead them, but he didn't care, and he just came in and went, "Yep, I'm gonna prove that I should have been your first choice."
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this season 3 from 3, you can't really argue with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like impressive people they've beaten, like City in that first game. Though City technically just always lose at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. But overall, very impressive. And I think the team buy into his philosophy. He kind of knows what he's doing with that team. Like, I think the team bought into Pochettino, but Pochettino had been playing hard in this particular style, and the players were basically burnt out at that point.
Yeah.
And it's not that at the moment the Nuno still has like new manager syndrome, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, still just sort of finding his way into it, but also getting a bit of upbeatness as well. Getting new manager. It's like, new stuff, but there's still sometimes you can feel the rough edges because it hasn't quite all worked together yet to work out what's going on. But at the same time, everybody's still sort of trying their best to sort it out or to find that.
I think he's still finding his best 11, which is kind of scary.
Yeah.
And to be fair, they didn't have Harry Kane through their the last few games either. So that's also kind of ominous because when he comes back, he's going to be incredible for them. And I assume Kane is going to be there for the rest of the season.
We played against Watford at least, so.
So yeah, I can see that winning streak extending at least for a little bit. Liverpool have managed to secure a lot of their good players. Like Salah is going to get, I think, going to stay, and I think they've shown that they've fixed a lot of the issues in their forward line. But Liverpool's issue is the issue I always have with the team, in that I think the squad is thin.
Yeah. You say they're good. They did have a through the first half against Chelsea in that last game, they didn't look particularly threatening. It wasn't until we lost our player, got the red card, that they started looking a lot more ominous. Like they might get there. I mean, you always have that edge with Liverpool because they've got a very good attacking line. That they could just spring something from nothing, and they did have some good attacking lines in the first half as well. But looked like Chelsea had them covered, which was good. But then you say red card, and that changed everything and sort of gave.
But I still think after the red card, Chelsea played really well.
Yeah. Oh no, we defended ridiculously well, and perhaps should have had a couple of times there we may have even been able to steal it. But yeah, which would have been hilarious. But such is life. You say we
pretty much
really well, and Liverpool couldn't break it down. I mean, they got close as well several times, but it wasn't until then that they started actually looking like an attacking threat. Really, the first half.
Yeah.
A few minor points here and there. It was Chelsea running the game. In the second half, it was Liverpool running the game with Chelsea trying to attack on the counter. So.
Yep, I agree with that.
Yeah. They say that sort of makes it seem like Liverpool maybe aren't a ongoing threat, but they could upset the apple cart, really, of who's going to get there by plucking a win or two in the wrong places. I mean, they'll be close behind, but I sort of feel they're not going to be in contention this year.
Yeah, but now the other team we would be remiss to talk about that I think are still in a contention for getting into that top 4 spot is West Ham United.
Yeah.
An impressive start from them too, and I think Moyes has kind of figured out what he can do with this team.
Yeah.
And also, I think Kurt Zouma is a very good buy.
Oh, yes.
That's
it's sort of sad to see him across the city, but such is the way of it.
Yeah,
that's a super deal by West Ham, really.
Yeah, I think it's a good deal. Like, their forwards are all in form, and I think they've managed to keep Declan Rice, it's going to be, at least for this season, I think. He's not going to leave in January, I don't think. So if they don't get injuries, and people like Mark Noble and whatnot are still, like, they're experienced and they'll do the job for West Ham, come rain or high water. And so I definitely think they're gonna, but I think the Europa Cup is gonna, we've seen it, right? It happens every time. A mid-table team does really well and gets to the Champions League, gets to a European spot, and then suddenly you're like, that's your that's the floor, that's the height of what you're going to get to do, because you have no, you've got, your squad's not deep enough to sustain anything more than this.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like, it stretches their resources a little bit too far. And yeah, I do agree. I think West Ham perhaps is a little bit better than that and has a little bit more, and being a London club as well, like, they can perhaps finance it a bit better. And Kurt Zouma is sort of a sign of that. Like, That's looking good in terms of getting good players in to help them through. It gives them something, some definite experience, depth, and skill. Like it's a great signing, and it's a great move by Zuma as well, because he was always going to struggle in the Chelsea back three to get regular playing time, and now he's like, I get regular playing time. So
pretty much, I think it seemed like a deal that was good for everyone until it wasn't. If that makes sense.
Sort of.
Like, it looked like a great deal for Chelsea. Like, they were, player wasn't gonna get much game time, and they, managed to sell him for a useful fee, and they ended up not getting the player they needed to cover that position.
There is that, I suppose, but that's and I think we still have the depth there, at least to cover for the first half of the season.
Yeah.
Like, it's, as long as there's not two, like, we could probably cover one, maybe two injuries through the back five.
Yes.
But not a lot more. So, I mean, we've got Chilwell still, though he's on the left with Alonso.
Yeah,
as Lukakku covers centre as well as right wing back or right back. We've still got Christensen there. He's playing. We've got the new boy. Name is just escaping me. We've got several there. I mean, if we get two injuries through the back, we're probably going to be a bit more struggling to cover it all. But at the same time, it's not. Oh, Trevor Chabala. That's what I was thinking of. Badly.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got Oteo Silva as well. Like, it's not like it's
not hopeless. Like I said, I still think Chelsea's finishing in the top two, but I think if they come second with 1 or 2 points behind, they'll look at that deal and go, yeah, that was kind of maybe where we lost out this season by not having enough squad depth in our defense.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to be one of those things that either it will be fine and nothing will come, won't thing, or say if we get a couple of injuries, especially in the next few weeks or also this international window or something, then it's just going to be, painful.
Yes,
but it is trusting a bit to luck. Yeah,
I agree. But that being said, I think Chelsea still had a pretty good window, despite all that. So that's there. But I think, like I said, West Ham, I think, will probably finish 6th or 7th this season, based on how they've done in the season. I just think that Leicester and Spurs have a bit too much quality, and I think that's not unfair. And Liverpool too, for that matter, by the way. I don't think Liverpool are going to finish below West Ham.
No.
And that's what it looks like to me in the top 7. That being said, also, Everton could come in and spoil the party.
Oh yeah, there's always Everton.
And like, we should not underestimate the underrated genius that is Rafa Benitez.
Oh yes, definitely. And like, Everton have been looking very good as well. They looked very solid. They looked very good at home as well, and they look very solid. They, like you expect from Everton side, like coming from behind in games, and looking very much like a very solid and very dangerous Everton side should. Which means that it's going to be hard playing them, and they will pick up points and they'll be there and thereabouts as well, as you say. And who knows with them, they get on a roll, they will be very dangerous. And they are on a roll. I mean, they haven't lost yet, 2 wins and a draw, so.
And I think, Richarlison is a dangerous player in any team.
Definitely. Very much so. You have to really, watch out for him because he will score if you leave him free.
Yes. With that being said, I hadn't thought. I know that Chelsea traditionally value a more at least the fans value a more attacking manager, but I've noticed a trend. I feel like Chelsea is more successful when they have a more defensive-minded manager. Not necessarily somebody who's going to park the bus all the time. Like, obviously, I'm not saying you guys should get Sam Allardyce or Tony Pulis, for that matter. But if I think about post Ibrahimovic, that is,
yeah,
the managers that have been the most successful for Chelsea have been people like obviously Mourinho and Rafa Benitez. Conte.
Yeah.
Whereas your more attacking managers, like when you guys have tried to force the more attacking style managers like Sarri, even like other than Ancelotti, who is an attacking manager, but he's very pragmatic for an attacking manager. And I count Ancelotti as a successful manager because he won the league, and he won the league against Fergie, so that's worth something.
Definitely.
Other than Ancelotti, I can't for example, AVB had a terrible time.
Oh, very much so.
And he was basically supposed to be your change the style to be a more attacking kind of manager who plays a attractive style, etc., etc. Almost the anti-Mourinho, if that's not unfair. And
it was definitely something that was marketed that way.
Yeah.
Like he was coming in, he was going to be a more attacking manager, change, breath of fresh air for Chelsea, change the culture. We're going to drive forward and attack and free-flowing football, and then it all fell apart pretty much straight away.
Yeah,
I know what you mean. Yeah, and it's definitely true. And I think a little bit of that is just the way Chelsea plays football. Is like the players have always been that way, and when you've got you need a manager that you say is defensive minded, not a defensive manager, just defensive minded. I
or at least somebody who organizes from the back first, like Tuchel.
Yeah, like Tuchel. Like Mourinho was the perfect manager for us. That was, other than him sometimes perhaps having his ego get in the way all the time. But that was his philosophy, right? You built solid defense, and you built forward out of that, and your midfield ran back, and you had to get back, get in behind the ball, stop some other defenses, get the ball, flow forward from there, and you have a solid base, and the attackers spring from that, and you get your flow that way. It did require faster moving ball sometimes than some of his signings managed, but it was a successful formula, and I feel that the managers that are closer to that philosophy seem to be doing better, and it works better with the players that are at Chelsea. So it seems to be that the players we buy and the players that we grow fit into that mold better of have a solid defense and push forward from that. And the defensive line is your solid backbone, and it pushes up, and pushes the attack from there.
Yeah, and I had a theory about it. I think it's easier for a club to design a defensive team than it is to design a team with a philosophy. Like Manchester City effectively spent maybe a decade designing a team that Pep Guardiola would be interested in managing. And even then, Pep Guardiola had to buy a lot of players to get it into the Pep mold, if that makes sense. And only City can do that. Like, they have that money.
Yeah, exactly.
And that idea is kind of is not at all sustainable for any other club. You know what you're facing if you're trying to do the attacking thing. Versus if you're gonna be if building a team from the back is relatively easier to do. The players just have to buy into the defensive philosophy and learn it.
Yeah.
And obviously, sure, Pep has a very complicated defensive philosophy. I'm not saying defense is automatically easier than offense.
No.
In football, but there are there are simple ways to be like, we'll be organized at the back. We won't let in too many goals, and we'll do these things, which will allow us to work in these particular ways. And it's there's a reason why it exists. We all know what a manager can do.
I think also that's sort of the almost not quite default setting, but the standard way that most people would play football.
Yeah, and also I think because Chelsea has so many players, like from their loan system and their academy,
Yeah.
there is like when you think about it, there is a huge amount of defensive talent available to any manager who comes in.
Yeah.
To Chelsea, so you have a wide variety of defenders, unless you're trying to do something really special, like you need a goalkeeper who will play at the ball, like Alisson, for example.
Yeah.
Like, then obviously you need to do what Pep Guardiola did to Joe Hart. Poor guy.
Yeah.
But, most managers don't necessarily need something that specific. They're happy to have a goalkeeper who is solid and will not concede easy goals and is like, knows where his positioning is and doesn't have too many flaws. Like, that's good enough for them.
Yeah.
Conte needed to have wingbacks, but Chelsea had enough players that he could substitute some wingbacks. He just needed to get, like, Alonso.
Yeah.
And, like, he didn't ask for anything, like, more than Alonso as per se until he won the first season.
Yeah.
It's more difficult if he had wanted to be like, yeah, I need to have a number 10 and I need, because that's already like a $70 million player or $100 million player right there.
Yeah, exactly.
And so that's like, I think Lampard's issue. Like, and it's also harder to gel an offense,
Yeah.
like worst case scenario for a defense, you just go, okay, guys, we'll just double team. Like, yeah, Gary Neville said it. Like, there were times when if they felt like, the offense was going hard, he'd just tell David Beckham to, like, double team with him on the right flank. And, like, they knew Giggsy would obviously keep attacking, so it was fine.
Yeah.
And he said, and it worked really well for him when David Beckham was there. Like, obviously, David Beckham's his best friend. Like, he was, Beckham was the best man at his wedding, so and vice versa.
Yeah.
They obviously got along really well. He said that when he went to, like, Cristiano Ronaldo didn't do any defending, but he also said that, but, I didn't need to do any attacking with him in the team. Like, he took care of it all. So I can't really complain. Like, he did his shit, like, he did 100% of the offense. I could just focus on defending.
Yeah. I suppose it's the other way around for it. Either, you're sharing and then you're communicating and working together really well, or it's like you've got one guy's like, he's just doing it all. It's like, cool, I'll just concentrate on my bit then, right? I'll just make sure this side's shut down. I know you're not going to get back, but at the same time, I don't need to go forward, so it'll work.
Yeah. So, like I said, the defending side of it can come easier, and and you can get midfielders to come in and help you, whatnot. So if you have a manager who has very solid ideas about how his defense should, how the team should play without the ball, that's something that any team can learn easier rather than learning a really difficult, like, because Pep's system is complex. Like,
Definitely.
it's not straightforward by any stretch of the imagination. Like,
no, it's a Pep thing, right? It's Pep things. Like,
so, like, basically what I'm trying to say is, like, despite everybody saying, City buys the title, blah blah blah, what they've accomplished or what Pep's accomplished at City is not easy to do. Like, that's an incredible thing that the club has accomplished in that time, and I say that as a United fan.
Yeah,
like,
no,
I think Chelsea has tried so many times, and one could argue Chelsea is the best run club in British football.
Yeah.
And even they haven't succeeded at doing that.
No, exactly. And I guess part of that you need someone like Pep to do it. But I mean, we've had really good managers as well, and say really good systems. But I guess sometimes you need a bit of luck as
But
well.
I think the value of Chelsea's way is that they are more ruthless. Like City has literally let every single one of their managers see out their contract.
Yeah.
Like, including Mancini, and like, if Mancini had done what he had done at City at Manchester United, he would still have a job at United, no doubt in my mind.
Yeah.
Like, nobody would kick him out. Everybody would be like, look at what he's done for the club. How can you even think about getting rid of him? Like, there'd be riots if you
Yeah.
tried to get rid of someone like Roberto Mancini for what he's done. And Mancini's a good manager. He just won the
Yeah.
Euros. So I'm not in any way casting aspersions on his talent. He's like, I respect his abilities.
Yeah, exactly.
But, it was clear to most people, I think, that his time at City was over. And, the owners did the right thing by, letting him go when he did. Like,
Yeah.
not re-signing him when they did. And ditto with Pellegrini, because they were going to have Guardiola. In the end, they just stayed patient and did it. But that lack of ruthlessness, like, it's paid off in the end, but they're the only people who have the money to just let it be. Like,
Yeah, I know what you
almost.
mean.
Almost like they're the only people who have the money, and also like their ego is not going to be damaged by not winning stuff for a few years.
Yeah, I think that's the big bit, is that there is an appetite, I guess, or a willingness to accept some rebuilding years, rebuilding being in quotation marks for City,
Yeah.
where things perhaps aren't as great as they may have been. And it's like, we've got, especially new managers in, like, this new manager, we can't expect everything. Give them some time, we'll be okay. And then they normally are. I think that's a bit of it as well. Like, they're given the space for it.
Manchester City also knew the kind of players they wanted to buy and how they wanted to develop the players in their youth system.
Yeah.
So, like, City are basically Cruyff's Barcelona 2.0, or Cruyff slash Guardiola's Barcelona 2.0. Like, literally every team in the system is designed to create players that could slot into the City team if the City team needed them to.
Yeah.
It just so happens that they haven't needed them to.
Yeah, exactly. But yes, I know what you mean. Like, they have all the depth because they have lots of people that know the system.
Yes.
Just to design the system and then made sure that everybody's there is like, this is what the system is. This is, if we need to, we'll step up and we can do our part. And so therefore, even when they're losing players for injury left, right, and centre, they're still a threat.
Yeah. This is the thing, that ruthlessness, though City don't do it the same way, like they're less ruthless, they're still a bit ruthless. And I think that's the problem with Arsenal, right? They're not ruthless enough, and they're also bad. When they are ruthless, they do it badly. Like, okay, I think it's evident to everyone now, Arsene Wenger was not the problem at Arsenal.
No.
Like, I think, but if you could criticize anything, it's that he probably masked over a lot of the problems that Arsenal had as a club in their structure, and he shielded the board from that criticism.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
By doing as well as he did.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's not even his fault. Like,
No. He was too good for them in the end.
He's too good for them in the end. I agree. Like, and I don't care what any Arsenal fans. And like, I know so many Arsenal fans who kept complaining and like begging for him to be wanting him to be gone and take, like, maybe Arsene, for his own sake, should have left the club at when they won the FA Cup.
Oh yeah.
So he could have left on a trophy instead of trying to stay on. But hindsight is 2020, and I don't blame him for trying to fix as much, because he loves Arsenal. Nobody can say he doesn't bleed for Arsenal, right?
Yeah, no, he definitely bleeds Arsenal all the way through.
He wanted to try his best, and he rated himself, and I don't blame him, because he's a bloody legend.
Yeah. I mean, even we back then were saying that perhaps he'd been around too long and he was it was holding things back and then he needed to go. But you say hindsight being 2020, you look at it and go, okay, yeah, it definitely wasn't Wenger that was the problem. Like Arsene was making things better than what they actually were. There was a much deeper problem going on at
Yeah.
Arsenal, which hasn't been solved. It still
Yeah.
continues.
Oh, 100%. And it won't be solved because I think the people who caused those problems are still there. And like, and there's no appetite amongst the ownership at Arsenal to fix the problem, right? If there was, it would have already been fixed.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't think I'm putting too fine a point of it when I say that I think Kroenke is the worst owner in all of sports. Not just soccer, but like, every sports club he owns.
Yeah. I know what you mean.
Like, so he's the worst type of owner any club can ask for. Like with the Glaziers, I can give them crap for being greedy because they take dividends, but they're not stingy. You know what I mean? They do spend money. If that if that makes sense, like they are not yes, they take money from the club, but the club generates so much money that and they do spend a lot of that money.
Yeah.
Try and get them into the position to win big trophies and increase the value of the club. I can argue that they do it terribly, but they don't not do it.
No, exactly. They do it, and you say I think each season United have spent a reasonable amount of money each transfer window buying in players that they generally somewhat need.
Yeah.
So you can't say that, as you say, you can't say that the Glaziers aren't having money available for transfers.
Yes.
Whilst Arsenal, on the other hand, just
yes,
who knows who they're buying sometimes.
And I think like Spurs are ruthless. And that's kind of why I think Spurs are in a better position than Arsenal are right now. Like they openly courted a bunch of other managers before taking Nuno, and Nuno still went to them. And like they know they're gonna. And I rate Nuno. I think he's gonna do a great job at Spurs if he stays there and manages to get his system in place. And as I said, the players look like they are buying into what he's trying to get them to do. So that's gonna obviously make things a lot easier for him.
Yeah. That definitely makes it easier when the players are on board with it, as you say, and it definitely looks, and it's working as well. So
yeah,
well so far, which definitely helps. And I think even having a good start to a season does a lot more for allowing you to extend through, even if you have some troubles later on the season. Generally, especially early on in a managerial career.
Yeah. Is Arsenal's problems even fixable now? Like, I feel like, okay, if we look at their current predicament, what's happened to Arsenal? They lost their first game at Brentford, and they were bullied by Brentford. I watched that game. I couldn't stop watching just because Brentford were playing such an exhilarating style of football.
Yeah.
And it was amazing seeing fans back at the stadium and singing. Like, that was great,
It was great.
And the whole thing was like these fans, they've come up to the Premiership, they've got a brand new stadium that they finally get to use and, and be there and be there for the first time. And and it's a potential big scalp. Like Arsenal are still a big club, but they're beatable. And so they're all excited and they're cheering their team on. So that can happen. You can lose those games. And Arsenal didn't play too badly then. They were just bullied. So there was a lot of things where I just went, okay, Arteta I see what Arteta's trying to do here. The players just couldn't execute it.
Yeah.
I don't think he was necessarily being naive. Because I think if they want to get the best out of Ben White, they need to have Gabriel.
Yes.
But without Gabriel, they become like a team that's just going to leak goals, I think. It's going to be very tough for them. So then they played Premier League champions and then champions of Europe. Okay. So two teams that they're gonna lose to, but they were absolutely outplayed in every That's when I think Arteta just didn't know what he was doing. Players don't buy into his thing, and also doesn't seem to know the right tactics to use against. Tuchel basically ran circles around him. I think
easily. It was. I felt him. I watched that game and felt embarrassed for Arsenal.
Yeah, I agree. That was embarrassing.
And then the game at City.
And City, let's not even City. We know if a team is even half vulnerable, City have the sort of team that will just destroy you.
Yeah. I mean, I felt we were too nice to Arsenal.
Yeah, I agree.
Took the foot off the throat big time. Just cruised through the second half.
Yeah.
Whilst clearly City was like, nah, we're getting all the goals we can out of this one. Dear God.
Yeah, and City, I think Arsenal just had no answer, and there was no fight. So their next game, because they're playing, I think I looked up Arsenal's next few games. They've got Norwich in their next game, and that's almost a relegation 6-pointer game now.
Yeah.
I'm not being unkind to Arsenal. They're at the bottom of the league, and this is a game that I think Norwich are going to target them, and then they've got a game against Burnley at Burnley, which is no easy feat.
No.
And Burnley also are going to treat this like a 6-pointer. Arsenal is a team that's going to be fighting against them potentially for relegation for at least half a season.
Yeah.
And then you've got Arsenal versus Spurs, and and I think that's even though they're at home in that game, I think Spurs are gonna go if they've lost even one of those games against Burnley or Norwich. Spurs are just gonna be nom nom nom, especially if they're still top of the table and haven't lost a game at that point.
Exactly. No, that's just gonna be crazy.
When do you fire Arteta? I don't think there's any question Arteta's gonna be the first manager fired this season.
Yeah.
Or if he's not the first manager fired, Arsenal are getting relegated.
Yeah, exactly. I guess it's that top. It could almost be that Tottenham game. Really, if they haven't turned things around and looked better after that Tottenham game, even if they win the two previous games, if they're not looking like a top team, and then they go to Tottenham and lose that and look the same, you can't keep them. I know it's only it'd only be the beginning of October, and it's a crazy time to be even thinking about it, but
it doesn't even get much easier for Arsenal after that. In October, they have Brighton and Hove Albion, who beat them twice last season. So Brighton did the double against them. They've got a London derby against Crystal Palace. They've got Aston Villa at home, and I think Aston Villa are going to be a good side this season. They've bought good players, and they look like they're well set up. And then they've got Leicester, who we agree is a top 4 team, competing for a top 4, or at least bare minimum a top 5 team.
Yeah, exactly. So
So it does not look good for Arsenal looking up till because some people online have been saying things like, give them till the end of November when they're playing Newcastle. But I'm like, can you even afford to do that? They're playing Watford, which is once again relegation 6-pointer in November, and then Liverpool. Do we expect them to beat Liverpool away? I don't.
Not at the moment.
And then Newcastle.
I can't even imagine them doing it.
Yeah, and Newcastle at home, Newcastle might treat that as a potential relegation 6-pointer if Newcastle are a team that's looking like they might get relegated. And after that, they travel to Old Trafford. So there's some tough times for Arsenal coming up.
Yeah, no, as you say, they do not have. If they're looking this bad, it's only going to get worse and worse. They don't have the luxury of time. I don't think there's a lot of give them X number, or wait till the end of November to see how things are settling in. No, if it's not working in the next 3 or 4 games, you're going to have to cut your losses.
Their silly season games are basically Leeds, Norwich, Wolves, and Manchester City.
Yeah.
In a regular season, you'd go, oh yeah, maybe Arsenal will win those first 3 games, and then they'll be in a good position to try and beat City at home. But we're no, that's gonna be really tough now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think Arsenal will be relegated. I think Arsenal are in the position Chelsea were in the season Leicester won, where
Yeah.
I think I'm not being unkind when I say Chelsea were threatening relegation at the beginning of the season until Gus Hiddink came in and like steadied the ship
Yeah. Yeah. No.
because the
Well,
players were just not buying what Mourinho was selling.
no, exactly. It was. I don't know if relegation was seriously a problem, but yeah, it was not going to look pretty
If you kept
either way.
Mourinho that season and not fired him, you would have been relegated. That's not unfair to say, I
I would
think.
have said, I would have thought 15th or 16th would have been where we ended, maybe 17th. They say close to relegation, but I don't know if we're quite would have fallen
I
that far.
Yeah, maybe the players would have just had too much pride to let themselves be relegated because there's still like a bit of pride in a lot of those Chelsea
Yeah,
players. Do you see that pride in these Arsenal players? Maybe when Mesut Ozil was there.
yeah, yeah.
Maybe when you had players like Fabregas and Aaron Ramsey, but they're not there
This
anymore.
is ages back. This now,
Yeah,
so like yeah,
like,
you're right.
do you think Aubameyang is looked like he can't be arsed at the moment? Lacazette looks like he can't be arsed,
Most of them look like they can't be asked.
and
Like
those are
they're
the
just
two
not
best
trying.
players in that side, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, Kieran Tierney aside, who looks like he's trying his best, and Emil Smith Rowe. But other than those two, and if you know that you just hold up their left hand side and attack them, you're going to beat Arsenal. Every team can do that.
yeah,
Norwich
yeah,
can do
exactly.
that. Watford can do that. Brentford did that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't
So
know where
yeah,
Arsenal's going. Like,
it's rough for Arsenal. Like, but then who do they get? Even if they fire Arteta, which manager is willing to go to Arsenal? It's the most poisonous job in world football.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know who you get.
Like, would Mourinho go to Arsenal?
Maybe he
Maybe.
might. He might have
Like,
the
but
ego
like,
for
what?
it.
But the thing is, he's doing well at Roma now,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
why? If
yeah. Not now.
uh, but at least he has still got some stature, and like so
Yeah,
the players would respect him. Rafa Benitez was probably the perfect guy for Arsenal to get,
yeah.
but they
Actually, yeah,
didn't. They took Arteta, and
yeah.
Benitez was available when they took Arteta.
Oh dear. Yeah, that's just. I don't know.
I mean, like they didn't even like. Okay, maybe you could get Eddie Howe, but would Eddie Howe go to Arsenal now? Like Eddie Howe decided he didn't want to go to Celtic, and Celtic are they're in shambles too at the moment, but they're a lot better off than Arsenal.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's a good point.
Celtic might finish third, and that's going to be a crisis
Yeah, yeah. That
for
is a crisis for
for the
Celtic.
boys. That's terrible result, but
Yeah, but if you
and
turn down Celtic,
and
like
that
he's
fan
not
base
going
is
to
nowhere
Arsenal.
near as terrible as Arsenal's fan base. Okay, there is other issues with being the fan base of the old firm, clubs, and like I'm not getting into that now, and like
Yeah,
everybody
yeah,
who
yeah.
knows about football knows about that. But I'm like ignoring that. Like being a Celtic manager is nowhere near as terrible as being an Arsenal manager.
Yeah.
Like I almost feel like they have to ask Arsene Wenger to come out of retirement, and you know what? I feel like they will, and I feel
Yeah.
like Arsene Wenger will say yes, and I would just be like, dude, Arsene, don't do
Don't
it,
do it,
man.
man.
You've
Don't do
done
it,
it.
man.
You deserve to retire and enjoy, look at the sunset, enjoy a glass of wine with Alex Ferguson. Like you've done enough for football.
Yeah.
The fans, you've given the fans so much. Like you've given Arsenal so much.
Yeah. But I think you're right.
Arsenal have no right to ask you for more than what you've already given them.
That's the thing, is that Arsenal have no right to ask. You just feel that if they can't keep Arteta, they will ask him, but you say there's basically no one else. They'll ask him for the season and then maybe
A
peg on.
caretaker manager for a season to keep them from getting relegated, and he'll do
Yeah.
it.
Oh,
But
he
then
definitely
Arsenal
will.
won't fix anything next season, and they'll be
No.
back to where they were.
Yeah. Or they'll fix it
And
by like getting Mourinho or something, and that might work for a season, and then it will be a absolute hilarious shit show. Like,
yeah,
I love
and
Mourinho, but I want him to go to Arsenal now just to see how much fun that would be, because would just
That would be ridiculous.
yeah.
Like the drama alone. But I think
Yeah.
Mourinho's too smart to do that.
Yeah. I think so too.
Like, I think going to Arsenal is a step too far. I know he went to Spurs after he said that he didn't want to dishonor Chelsea, but that was in 2008 that he chose not to go to Spurs. But, after Chelsea has fired him twice, it's fair enough that he went, okay, like, I can go to Spurs now. It's like when if this girl had a long-term relationship with you has, broken up with you twice, after you've been married and gotten divorced and had kids, it's okay that you date their cousin or their best friend after. He's done with you at that point.
Yeah, like, it didn't work. We tried it again, worked for a bit, then the old problems came back. Okay, we can officially say this is not working.
Yeah.
Like, it's not a relationship that's going anywhere. So we can see other people and they can be.
Yeah, but if after not working out with the sister, you go for another sister, it's like, no, bro, this family isn't working for you.
Yeah.
Just stop.
Yeah, like. It's like, there's definitely something about this family. It's just not for you. Just move on. There's plenty of
I rate Mourinho. I still think he's a great manager, but I think his style now really suits Serie A or League One.
Yeah.
I think English clubs have just too many big name players. Like every club, they have too much money, and they're it's very too competitive, almost.
Yeah.
And too many good managers.
Yeah. I don't know if the good managers is so much the problem, but it's definitely the difference in players.
No, I mean, let me re-clarify that. Like, if he were to go to an English club now, he would not have the resources that all the other managers of his caliber have.
Oh yeah.
He won't be able to compete with them. Not because he's not as good as them, but it's because, two equal forces, whoever has the more resources will generally beat the other guy.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
I was more thinking about why Mourinho would fail in any club.
Yeah.
Because even if he was given more resources, because his managerial style doesn't suit English players anymore. Like
that too.
Yeah, it is. He's the personality of a club, but he does it a bit to shield the players. Like he's trying to be like, he'll take on. Most people criticize players every now and then. Generally, he'll take it on himself.
I think it's one thing if you did that, and it's fine. But if once you start criticizing players publicly, it becomes very different. Like Alex Ferguson almost never did that in his career.
Yeah. Mourinho started doing it more towards the end. He would criticize the board and all the rest earlier on, and criticize not having the right players.
And even Arsene Wenger has, I think, as much as we know he does do the hairdryer treatment, he doesn't publicly criticize players, almost to a fault. And I struggle to think of Guardiola or Klopp doing it. Guardiola just gets rid of you.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, Guardiola's ruthless, and he obviously has a big ego and all that. Like, he's not. Like, I feel like Thomas Tuchel is a bit more of a, I'll do what works, and Rafa Benitez is, I'll do what works. They don't need to play a style,
Yeah.
They're very flexible managers. Whereas, Guardiola will just drop you. Whereas I don't think Benitez is a bit like that, or Tuchel for that matter.
Yeah.
But that kind of worked to his detriment at PSG. After he got them to the Champions League final. The season after that, the players kind of stopped buying in, which I don't understand at all.
Yeah, no, that's crazy,
but PSG's loss is Chelsea's gain, so
no
exactly. Complaints there, right?
Yeah, like oh well, for PSG, I guess.
And that's the thing. When Tuchel was available as well when they hired Arteta.
You make a good point. Oh dear. Oh, Arsenal.
To be fair to Arteta, I think he did a good job towards the end of last season to manage to get Arsenal all the way up to 8th. Yeah. I think that was a credible performance, and he did manage to get them to an FA Cup. What happened to Roberto Di Matteo at Chelsea, right? He got them a Champions League, but the season after that, the players were just like, yeah, actually, you're not that good a manager, and.
That was Yeah, Di Matteo was just a caretaker manager, taking over a squad, and almost, for him, it was almost pure luck that he managed
To
it.
be,
I mean, we had a good enough team.
to be fair,
We're
now that
just
I think
really not
about it,
firing it
Chelsea
yet.
did also have Avram Grant,
Other
who
than the
was a
Champions League.
successful attacking manager at Chelsea. Sure, he came second, but he got you guys to your first Champions League
Yeah,
final, and he came very close to winning in his first year, very close to getting the double at Chelsea in his first year.
very,
So
very close.
very credible. Taking somebody
Yeah,
else's team, but still like getting them to play in his style and whatnot, in a completely different style.
yeah. Yeah, that was amazing, actually. Do we want to talk a bit about AS Roma, since we've been talking about Mourinho?
We did talk about so AS Roma at the moment, looking at the Serie A, they have won both their games they've played this season. So far,
Yeah,
perfect.
perfect.
And goal
Perfect
difference
start.
of 6, so definitely very credible there.
I mean, I suppose the top five have all played 2-1-2.
Yeah, Syria did start like a week later from everybody else. Mourinho celebrated with pizza. Like I can't even imagine what a mellow Mourinho is like.
I know.
I half almost don't want Mourinho to get back into management just because he's always such a good analyst.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you can listen to him talk about football for hours. He just has so many interesting takes.
Yeah,
And
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
um he's one of the best, I think, commentators. There are like commenters on the game. There is like if more Jose Mourinho, if he wasn't managing and he had a football blog and where they talk about football, I would listen to that religiously.
Oh, definitely.
So, but yeah, so his next game is against Sassuolo, which is going to be a tough one. Sassuolo, I think, came fifth last season.
Fifth or
I want
sixth,
to
yeah.
say. Yeah, and they have a very decent side. Then they're gonna play CSK Sofia at home for the Europa Conference League.
Mm-hmm.
And then they go to play Hellas Verona away, which is also a tough game.
Yeah, that's quite
And
tough.
then Udinese, which is at
Ooh.
home, which Udinese are always there or thereabouts, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
And finally, the Roma derby against Lazio on September 27th. I am so looking forward to that game. I think that's where we're gonna see what Mourinho's like, how he's gonna. That's when I think we're gonna see some peak Mourinho behavior coming out.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. That could be very good.
And I think the next date that I think we need to mark on the calendar is October 18th when they play Juve
Yeah.
away.
Oh, yeah.
So those are going to be two incredible games, in my opinion.
Yeah, they should be pretty good, I would say. I can imagine you could have some fireworks around there, especially in the lead up. You say if might get some peak Mourinho getting into there. If there's going to be some good ones if he's going to pull out the classics,
Yeah,
they'll
yeah.
be the ones where they're coming from. So, but I see because they got Tammy Abraham, so that was
Yeah, yeah.
some good
I
work
think
by Roma there.
Roma have put themselves in a very good position to finish in the top four. I
Mm.
think I would not be surprised if Roma and Lazio and Inter fight it out for the top spot this season. Because I think AC
Yeah,
Milan have sold too many. I think, to be fair, I think Inter have also sold a lot of key players in their squad. And they don't have Conte anymore.
yeah,
But I feel like there's something in that team that's still potentially there for them to be competitive. But yeah, Mourinho with Roma and I think Lazio are looking like it would be, how cool would it be? Just it would be almost like, it's the year 2000 again. We're 20 years old again, and it's like the top Rome clubs that are competing for Serie A now.
yeah. That would be crazy, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like I'm just thinking about it. The last time Roma won Serie A, they had players like Hideyoshi Nakata, um, obviously Francesco Totti.
Mm.
So yeah, yeah, there's like some names that bring you back, and you're like, oh yeah, Football
Yeah,
Manager when we used to buy those players,
yeah. That was good times.
because that's exactly where our head is going when we think about those players.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Same place.
And Lazio had players like Hernan Crespo, who Chelsea did buy like a Football Manager buy.
Unfortunately, that wasn't Football Manager, so it didn't really work out as well as it could have. But
now, do we want to go to our final section, which is the Champions League group stages and the draw?
Let's quickly do that.
So Group A, which looks incredibly competitive. Club Brugge, Manchester City, Paris Saint-Germain, and RB Leipzig. Obviously, City and PSG are the favorites to go ahead in this group, but I think they both have tough fixtures in Leipzig and Bruges to play. But I feel like Bruges are gonna finish bottom, and Leipzig will go for the Europa slot, finishing third.
Yeah, that's actually pretty harsh on Leipzig. They're not a bad team, but that seems
PSG with Messi and City is City.
Exactly. Like they're not going to get out of that.
But who's going to finish top here, City or PSG?
Ooh, that's going to be tough. Right. I want to say PSG, but City is City. But I still think PSG with Messi.
Like Pochettino has Pochettino has been able to beat Guardiola in the past, more than a few times.
Yeah. So yeah, I'd go PSG top there. I mean, they'll have Mbappe and Messi. So
and Neymar,
and Neymar, obviously. Sorry. So that's going to be a killer front three.
Yes. And following on from that, Group B, we have Atletico Madrid, the current La Liga champions, and potentially favorites to be this season's La Liga champions.
Yeah.
My hot take for this season, when it comes to La Liga, FC Porto, Liverpool, and AC Milan. Wow. So this is a group where almost every team has won the UEFA Champions League or European Cup before. In fact, all Porto, Liverpool, and AC Milan have won the Champions League before in the Champions League format. Atletico Madrid have not, but they've won multiple Europa and UEFA.
Made it to a final, so.
Yeah, and they've made it to a final. So, that being said, I think AC Milan and Porto are probably fighting for that third place spot, and I wouldn't be surprised if Porto finished third there. Liverpool, it's tough, I think, to play Atletico Madrid. Diego Simeone is just such a good manager, and the club, he's been there forever, and the club he knows how to run the team, and he's basically the club. It's built around his image. To be fair, you could say the same about Klopp. But, Atleti have Suarez and Costa up front. So there's going to be, it's going to be tough. I'm going to just go edge it out and say Atletico will finish top in that group, but Liverpool will finish second.
Yeah, I'll go with that as well. I think a little bit that's just, and it's only 3 games, but based on the first 3 games of Liverpool, even though they haven't lost, I think Atletico maybe just have that little bit of an edge, and so therefore take the top spot just from Liverpool. So Porto, Milan, 3-4 that way, I guess. But it's still a historically tough group that, and I can see both Porto and Milan putting in very tough fights. Because they both got history, they both want to prove that they can do it again. So it'll be tough games all round.
Yeah, I agree. Group C, very competitive. It's got two clubs that have won the Champions League before. One of them, one of the most decorated clubs in the history of this tournament, Ajax.
Yeah.
We've got Besiktas, who are always a hard team to play, especially at home. Borussia Dortmund and Sporting CP. Now, Sporting CP have some very troubling issues going around in the club. Though they've started well in the league and are playing well, their president has been arrested for fraud, and his son has as well.
All right.
So there's some issues there. I believe Besiktas has been having some similar issues as well. So while that's happening, though, both those teams have been playing well on the field, so it's not impacted the players yet.
No.
Borussia Dortmund are always kind of competitive, I think, and Ajax Amsterdam are like always but I think any of these teams could win this
Yeah.
group. I think Borussia Dortmund are gonna finish top here, and I feel
Yeah.
like Ajax are just gonna be second.
Yeah, I think that seems to be where the smart money would go. As you say, both Sporting CB and Besiktas they've been playing well, so it could upset here and there, but I think Dortmund then Ajax. That seems the
Yeah.
most likely.
But yeah, I think though Sporting will finish third over
Yeah.
Besiktas in the end.
Yeah.
Next we have a group with Real Madrid, Internacional, Shakhtar Donetsk, and Sheriff Tiraspol. Very quickly, Adam, without looking at Google, do you know which country Sheriff Tiraspol hail from?
No, I was about to Google it.
I will give you a clue. It is the country where the Numa Numa song originates from.
Oh dear, Moldavia, eh?
It
That's
is
good.
Moldova.
Yeah. As I say,
So I believe if you're being technical, they're from a breakaway republic of Moldova called Transnistria.
all right.
But that's as much as I know about this club. I think it's amazing that they've managed to get this far. Great achievement, and a great moment for Moldovan football, but I don't see them progressing. I think Internacional, given they have such a tough Serie A schedule and they've sold a lot of their good players, I think Shakhtar are a very strong team. Very difficult to beat at home, and I think they're going to be competitive away as well. So I am going to pick Shakhtar to finish second, and I think Real Madrid easily top this group, like without breaking a sweat.
Yeah. Easy. I know. I might put Inter still at second. Um, the Italian teams, whilst not as great as they once were, seem to do better in the Champions League than you might think sometimes. So I think they'll
True.
just scrape through it at second.
Now, I just realized I made a mistake. It's not Sporting CP that had their president get arrested for fraud. It's actually Benfica because they're called Sporting Club Benfica. So I
All
mixed
right.
that up as well. But I still think Sporting are going to finish third in Group C. But
Yeah.
that being said, Group E, because I just looked at Benfica and went, I actually got that the other way around, didn't I? So Barcelona, Benfica, Dynamo Kiev, Bayern Munich. An incredibly difficult group. Once again, three clubs here that have won this tournament before.
Yeah.
Benfica being the first club to ever beat Real Madrid in this tournament. Sorry, no,
Yeah.
they beat Real. They were the first team to win the tournament that wasn't Real Madrid.
All right. Yes.
They beat Barcelona in the finals. Barcelona beat Real Madrid in the semis.
All right.
First time Real Madrid lost in over two legs in again in the tournament. This is back in the day when it was all knockout, no group stages, of course.
Of course.
But yes, Barcelona, Benfica, Dynamo Kiev, Bayern Munich. Okay. First off, Bayern Munich are finishing top, right? We all agree with that.
Yeah. Definitely.
That's Nagelsmann. Even though that's his first time managing Bayern, I think he's gonna do at least that. Barcelona are in such a shambles, but they have competed reasonably well in the league. They still have Aguero.
Yeah.
And Memphis. So I still think they're going to finish second. It's tough to pick between Dynamo Kiev and Benfica. I think given the problems that I just mentioned at Benfica, which I mistakenly attributed to Sporting, I think Dynamo Kiev are going to finish third and get into that Europa League spot from there.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with all that. I think you're right. With the troubles Benfica are having,
Yeah.
that is going to impact at some point. So yeah, Dynamo Kiev in the third spot. You say with Bayern first, Barcelona second.
Yeah.
That's because Barcelona completely imploded for some reason.
Yeah, but I don't expect them to at the moment.
No, they say they've still got some good class in the team.
Yeah. Yeah, Group F, we have Atalanta, Manchester United, Villarreal, and Young Boys. Now, this is an incredibly tough group. I think any of those, the top three, Atalanta, Manchester United, Villarreal, can finish top. I am, of course, picking Manchester United to finish top because we have
Yeah,
Cristiano Ronaldo, and he just scores goals for fun in
yeah,
the Champions League. But Villarreal have the wood on Manchester United in recent times, and also for long I think throughout history as well.
yeah,
Atalanta are just a tough team, I think, to beat. They just play this really interesting and organized style of football. And Young Boys is not an easy team. Like Young Boys, I feel like could be kingmakers in this thing without necessarily finishing third. They could
yeah,
decide the positions above them, and they might even sneak up to a third spot, depending on how badly one of the teams might, start having a run of results.
yeah. Know what you mean. Not like they just if they get a win or two, win and a draw and something they may
Yeah.
be pushing there. But I think right, Man United to me that's the top team. And then it's a toss up between Atlanta and Villarreal.
Yeah.
Probably Villarreal to me. Um,
Yeah,
but
I agree. I think Manchester United, Villarreal, and then maybe Atalanta finish third for
yeah,
that
yeah,
Europa spot. But I wouldn't be surprised if Man United finished third in this group. Saying that.
yeah. I'd be a little bit surprised, but not shocked. I guess is what you're saying.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, that's surprising, but yeah, it was a reasonably tough group.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of bad results, and it's going to be very
Yeah.
hard.
Yeah. Following on from that, we go to Group G, where we have FC Salzburg, Lille, Sevilla, and Wolfsburg. Very competitive group. Lille managing
Yeah.
to beat PSG, but basically had a bunch of their players sold, and they're in severe economic problems at the moment. That being said, they do still have a good core of players, and I think they're good enough to finish in the top two.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Lille, Sevilla are gonna finish top just because they always do really well in Europe, and this is a group where they can beat all the other teams. At least at home, they're gonna be tough to beat.
Yeah.
Um, Between Salzburg and Wolfsburg, I think Wolfsburg are just gonna edge it out over Salzburg, get that third place spot. So we're only gonna have one Red Bull team in the. Though to be fair, Salzburg are the only Red Bull team because the RB in Leipzig stands for lawn bowls.
Yeah, exactly.
Rossenbollen.
Old Russian ball. I
Yeah,
think you're right. Yeah, Sevilla top, Lille second, and then toss up between Wolfsburg or Salzburg about third and fourth. I might put Salzburg above Wolfsburg, but that's only be slightly different to you.
yeah, fair enough. Next up, the last but certainly not least, Group H, where we have Chelsea, Juventus, Malmo, and Zenit St. Petersburg.
Yeah,
Um, I think this is a pretty straightforward group. I think Chelsea finishes top,
yeah,
Juve second, just
yeah,
because I think they've lost Cristiano Ronaldo and they still have problems in their, manager and all these other things.
yeah, yeah,
Um, we've got Zenit are always competitive, and I think they're just a bit too much class for Malmo. Good effort for Malmo to get as far as they have, though.
yeah.
Um, but I don't see them going any further.
No, I think I agree with you. That seems to be the most likely ending. But yeah, it's a nice, just easier way through it. I mean, Juventus is not an easy beat, but as you say, Ronaldo's moved on, having other issues. Not going to be the Juve of even just the previous season. So
Yeah. And this Juve actually has competition in Syria. They can't just be like, yeah, we go on autopilot in Syria and focus on Europe.
yeah, exactly. I mean, a bit of travelling around, but other than that, and Zenit
Yeah.
is looking pretty good at the moment. They're top of the Russian league, so
Yeah.
not necessarily the easiest trip,
No,
but we've done it before, so
I agree. I think Zenit are going to be tough at home, but I don't see them winning at Turin against Juventus or at Stamford Bridge.
no,
And I think even at Malmo, it's going to be tough for them. But I think even if they get a draw and a win over Malmo, that's going to be enough for third. because I don't think Malmo are going to beat Juve or Chelsea or even manage a draw.
Yeah.
So that's our run-up of the Champions League. Time will show how badly wrong we were.
Hopefully not too badly, but with our track record, probably horribly wrong.
Yeah. So yeah, I think though that's all we have time for.
Yep.
We'll look forward to talking to you or having you all listen to us next time.
Catch you next time.